Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Young here and welcome to a Metal Gear Solid 5 news update. So earlier today I released a video with a bunch of information on Phantom Pain from IGN's impressions. In this video I'm meshing together impressions from all of the other media outlets who had a chance to watch the gameplay presentation and share their thoughts. Outlets include Game Trailers, GameSpot, Eurogamer, and much more. Keep in mind that this is a continuation of my previous video, so I recommend you watch that first. Anyways, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Let me begin by sharing some new information on the Fulton recovery system. I mentioned in my previous video that it can not only be used to extract people, but also things like jeeps, crates, and sheep, all of which will physically appear in the interactive mother base after the fact. And while we know the purpose behind extracting people, I never gave a reason for why you would want to extract anything else. Well, as it turns out, mother base can be attacked. It was never specified by who, but an invasion can happen, and whether players can defend Mother Base will depend on how well they know their way around the base, how well trained the recruits are, and how well equipped the base is. So objects like crates and shipping containers that have been extracted via Fulton could probably be used for cover, and things like jeeps can probably be used to get around Mother Base quickly. As for the sheep, well, no freaking idea what those could be used for, although I could totally see them distracting enemies and drawing some fire away from Snake and the Diamond Dog soldiers. Speaking of which, during these invasions, players can lose recruits. Of course, those with higher levels will have a higher chance of survival, but if the base is not well equipped, even high-level soldiers could bite the dust. This is why in the field, players are encouraged to extract anything that may be useful. Now, don't expect to go around extracting every single object in the game willy-nilly. While players won't have a limit in regards to how many Fultons they can carry, each Fulton will cost money. That's right folks, Phantom Pain will have a currency system. Anytime players buy or research new weapons, vehicles, and equipment, anytime players request things like supply drops, and anytime players use the Fulton recovery system, they will be spending money. There's also something else that will limit how much you can extract with Fulton. You guys remember that 80% that popped up in one of the frames during the Kojima Station footage? Well, as it turns out, that is the recovery success of the Fulton recovery system. Depending on things like weather conditions, this percentage will vary, but on good conditions, success rate will typically be around 80%. With success rate now coming into play, I get the feeling that in Phantom Pain, the Fulton success rate will be 0 when indoors. One final neat new feature of the Fulton recovery system that I would like to talk about is the ability to use it to extract Snake himself. If Snake needs to make a quick escape, one way to do this is by entering a vehicle or a container and using Fulton on it, which will result in the extraction of Snake inside the vehicle or container. The more traditional way to extract Snake is via chopper. What's cool about extraction in this game is that players can physically see the entire ride to Mother Base. There's no load screen or anything of the sort. The transition is smooth and seamless, and when Snake returns to base, soldiers and recruits will salute him, and Snake's presence will presumably raise their abilities. So ideally, if an invasion on Mother Base occurs, Snake would want to be there fighting alongside them to make them stronger. When not under siege, recruits will spend most of their days training, but what's interesting is that Snake can help them improve their skills faster by joining in on their activities like shooting practice and sparring. One more thing I would like to point out about Mother Base is that according to Kojima, it will look different for each player depending on the choices they make for upgrades and customization, along with the relationships that players form with enemies and allies in the field. Best of all, players will actually be able to go online and show off and compare bases, which I think is really cool. Alright, so that about covers everything you need to know about Fulton and Mother Base. Now let's talk about some new information in regards to Snake's mission in Afghanistan. The mission begins with a brief cutscene shown in the E3 2013 trailer. Now according to Game Trailers, this particular scene contains some kind of spoiler, which they opted not to share. So anyone thinking about watching the demo once it's made public, beware. The scene also provides confirmation that the soldiers in the Afghanistan desert are indeed Soviets. If you recall from my analysis of the Kojima Station gameplay, I mentioned a quick research that I did on what was going on in Afghanistan in 1984, which yielded with information that back then, there was some kind of Muslim insurrection against the Soviet-backed government. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that the guards in this map are Soviets. The cutscene also reveals one new aspect of the mission. Snake only has 3 days to rescue Kaz, who's been held captive for 10 days now. I really love the fact that Kojima's taking advantage of the day and night cycle to add a time limit. Part of what makes a real stealth mission so tense is that they often have to be accomplished within a time limit, and that's the one thing that's been missing from past Metal Gear games. Players could take all the time they needed, but now with a time limit added, even if a generous one, Kojima has basically injected some of that sense of tension into Phantom Pain that's been missing in the franchise. Once the cutscene ends and the mission begins, the first thing that players need to do in this mission is gather intel and find out where Kaz is being held captive. Once that's done, players can, quote from GameSpot, tackle the remaining Soviet bases however they see fit. So it looks like the Afghanistan map houses multiple Soviet bases, amongst them being the one in which Kaz is being held captive. During this mission, players will have Ocelot as their radio contact, who returns to Mother Base to help Snake over Kodak. Now, one new feature that I talked about in my previous video was the ability for Snake to knock on his prosthetic arm to lure guards. As it turns out, that's not how the new luring system works. My apologies for the mistake. Snake doesn't physically knock on his prosthetic arm. What actually happens is that Snake's prosthetic left hand spins at the wrist, resulting in clicks and sparks that make enough noise to draw attention. Unfortunately, it was not specified how this new feature could be used, but I'm sure it won't be anything complicated. Another cool stealth mechanic is the ability for Snake to hide unconscious people inside containers. One way Snake can do this is, while inside a container, drag an approaching soldier inside, knock him out, and leave him there. Something else that the gameplay presentation confirmed is the return of the iDroid. While there was very little doubt in my mind that it would make a return, it's good to finally hear some confirmation. One new feature of the iDroid is the ability to scan information and then send it back to Mother Base. As an example, in the demo, the player eventually finds some documents related to Kaz's location. Instead of stealing the documents and reading them, Snake simply scans the documents with the iDroid. The information is then sent back to Mother Base, and the mission info menu is updated thereafter, providing a more accurate location on Kaz's whereabouts. Now in Ground Zeroes, the iDroid could only be used to place one map marker, but in Phantom Pain, multiple markers can be set, and players will be able to distinguish these markers by their designated letters. This tool should prove to be quite useful in a game world that is hundreds of times larger than Ground Zeroes. Moving on, let's talk about the game's day and night cycle system, which is present both in the field and in Mother Base. I mentioned in my previous video how time can be fast-forwarded using the e-cigar labeled in the items menu as Phantom Cigar. It's also been common knowledge to most that soldiers will be in different positions at different times of the day. But something else that the demo showed off was the ability to catch guards while they were sleeping, and of course these guys can be extracted via Fulton back to base with ease. One final bit of information is a quote from Game Trailer's Impressions. According to Ben Moore, who saw the presentation, things aren't just being brought back from past games. Every single thing in Metal Gear is being expanded in some way, he says. Based on what I've been seeing and hearing about this game, I am more than inclined to believe him. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, all the new information that came out of E3 2014. Be sure to let our nation know in the comments below your thoughts on all of these features. And to be further updated on Metal Gear Solid 5, be sure to join the nation and subscribe to Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Young out!